What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with Fitty, Trent, and all I gotta say is, wow, the NHL Trade Deadline this year is running wild like a bunch of Hulkamaniacs. Ben Bishop was traded to the Kings. Hanzal was traded to the Wild. What is this madness, Fitty, Trent? Tell me.
This is the madness that we've been waiting for all year there, Mitch, with high anticipation. It's teams starting to sell and teams starting to buy for the big playoff push, and more importantly, the expansion draft coming into Las Vegas this upcoming summer. It's what we've been waiting for forever, that we've been kept on teasing. We've been talking to the Bottom Line View fans forever about a big trade happening since day one, and they've finally given us some big trades to talk about there, Mitch.
Yep, so I guess we should start with the big earlier trade because these are both massive deals that have a major impact on the Western Conference in the NHL playoff race. So we're going to discuss both trades. That is, Hanzal and Bishop. But let's start with Bishop. So Bishop was a goalie that, was a pretty good goalie for the last couple of years for the Lightning. I mean, he was a core member of their team for two great runs in the playoffs to the Stanley Cup, to the Eastern Conference Final. And he's just been, a solid contributor to that team. But now he hasn't been having his greatest season. The Kings have been a team that, have been looking for a goalie since Jonathan Quick went down, and we'll discuss the impact on Jonathan Quick as well because it has a big one. Ben Bishop is a goalie that's been looked at across the league as one of the better goalies in the league. He's not a top tier, candidate, but he's a very good goalie. And it looks like this is a deal that the Kings are looking at, and they're saying, we have a chance in this Western Conference. We're going to try and make a run in these playoffs. We have pieces. We have the Kopitars. We have the Dowdies in place. Carter is having one of his best seasons ever. Maybe we can make a run in this Western Conference. So what was the deal, Trent? And then we'll discuss, what we thought from both sides.
All right, the deal was that the LA Kings sent Peter Budaj, Erik Cernak, a 7th-round draft pick, and a conditional round draft pick to the Tampa Bay Lightning for Ben Bishop and a 5th-round pick. That was basically just the gist of the trade. The first time I saw it was kind of a bit of a head-scratcher for me. What about you, Mitch? Were you surprised about this trade?
It made sense. Initially, when I saw it, Ben Bishop, like the headline, Ben Bishop to the Kings, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, the Kings have been looking for a goalie. They had Peter Budaj and, a bunch of other guys trying to fill the place in there. So they were trying to look for a goalie. And I still think that they believe that this Kings team, and this is the number one reason why I think they made this deal. These Kings, if you really look at their team, all of their best players are like in their prime or going to leave their prime very soon. Mm-hmm. So I feel like they want to maximize that window as much as they can. And because Jonathan Quick is out, they wanted to go out and get a goalie with experience in the playoffs, a goalie that they know that they can count on, and a goalie that's better than Peter Budaj. So in the guys that they've had in there. So, they wanted to bring in Ben Bishop, who, again, is proven. And I think, again, this is a team that still realizes, especially the front office, that they do have players there. They can still make a run at these playoffs, especially at Western Conference that is kind of up in the air. It's definitely not as strong as the Eastern Conference. It does have the Wild, it does have the Blackhawks, but the Kings have proven that they can go on a run even despite their seeding in the past. So I like the trade from both perspectives. I think the Lightning kind of got rid of, I don't know the exact salary. I think that they did retain some of the salary.
They retained 20% of the salary in this trade.
Okay, so I think that, he had a pretty big contract too, right? Mm-hmm. He had a two-year, $11.9 million deal. That's what it says here.
Something like that. I think LA is now paying him $6 million, and that's after the 20% decrease.
Yeah, so that's not that bad. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with him in the future. Obviously, they still have that cap space for this season, and we'll see what happens next season. But for the Lightning, it gives them a chance to get rid of some salary. So that's a good thing for them. And they're also a team that hasn't been performing this year, and they can get a higher draft pick because they got rid of their goalie.
It's true. And then you also look at what they got back in this trade. And Peter Budaj, he's not been having a bad season. Only $600,000 for a contract right now. 27, 20, and 3 with a .917 save percentage and a 2.12 goals against average. That's better than Bishop this year, because Bishop has actually had quite an off year this year with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that's only just a little minor part going back. The big part of this trade that I think is definitely being overlooked is Erik Cernak. You look at this guy, he's 19 years old. He's a defensive defenseman, or maybe a two-way defenseman, right around there, drafted in the second round of the 2015 draft. And I was asking, actually, Music Wizard, our great #1 fan of all the hockey videos, I was asking before this trade even took place weeks ago. I said, what are you looking for at the draft? He's like, well, ideally, we're looking for that right-handed defenseman to put in our top 4 one day. That is Erik Cernak right there. He's going to be an excellent top 4 defenseman. He's not there yet, but he's only 19 years of age. And you look at the rest of the defensemen, none of them are super old, but some of them are getting to their mid-30s. So Erik Cernak is that perfect defenseman that I think Music Wizard would have wanted.
That's a good point, and I was kind of wondering about him. I did some research on him. Obviously, he's never played in the NHL before, so I didn't have too much experience with it. I've heard his name before. I'm not sure where.
Probably like the World Juniors, or like Czechoslovakia or something.
It could be that, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's a common name. I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's a decent trade for both sides. I like it from the Kings' perspective. It makes another team more interesting going into the playoffs from, talking about the NHL perspective. It makes it a little bit more entertaining for both of us to talk about the Kings going forward. And it makes them more of a legitimate threat to make a run in the playoffs, I think. And then for the Lightning, it gives them something for the future. It gets rid of some salary cap, and, it relieves a team that hasn't been playing very well this season. So that is that trade. Do you have anything else to add about Ben Bishop and going to the Kings?
I was just going to add one last point, that let's not forget that the LA Kings are only 3 points out of a playoff spot right now. Granted, yes, the St. Louis Blues have a game in hand over them, who own that last wildcard spot right now. But let's not forget that when the Kings do really well in a season, they don't go far in the playoffs. However, when it seems like the Kings are in 8th or 7th spot, making one of the last 2 wildcard spots, they go up to the Stanley Cup Finals. So it's the kind of thing where Ben Bishop, he's definitely going to help them reach that playoff mark. Will they be super high in the Pacific Division? Probably not, because it's, kind of set already. And Ben Bishop and Jonathan Quick, that's going to be an excellent 1-2 punch. Jonathan Quick has actually just recently been back from injury. So honestly, I think they have the best 1-2 tandem goaltenders in the NHL right now.
Yeah, that could be it. So definitely, because I think if Jonathan Quick's able to come back, he's shown at times that he can be spectacular, and then he's also shown at times that he can be a little off. So if they don't want to have Ben Bishop start, which he probably will be starting, but if they don't, then he could step in there for when Jonathan Quick isn't playing so hot. So let's go over to the other trade. The Minnesota Wild, the #1 team in the West, acquired Martin Hanzal of the Arizona Coyotes. This is a guy who was really on the trade block for most of the season. Fitty Trent's been talking about him. I'm pretty sure you thought that he would go to Montreal, but he has stayed in the Western Conference, and it seems like him and Ryan White are actually 2 players are going to Minnesota, but the big one is Martin Hanzal. It provides them another center. They have quite a few there in Minnesota, but it also adds another presence in the forward core, because this is a team that has to contend with the Blackhawks in the playoffs most likely. It's a team that has to contend with those bigger bodies in Anaheim and in LA. So they're looking, and San Jose as well. So they're looking at their competition. What do we need to match up against our competition when it comes to the playoffs? You look across the Western Conference, a lot of big guys, big forwards, scorers like those Joe Thorntons, like those Ryan Getzlafs, and those type of players, and those Jonathan Taves. So you have to kind of contain them defensively and also compete with them offensively. So I think this was a pretty good trade. It was for a first-round pick, so that's interesting. But this is a team that, again, like I discussed with the Penguins, and I know Fitty Trent's always looking towards the future, but I'm kind of one of these guys that if you can do it here and now, it's all about the here and now, and it's all about winning. So for the Wild, you never know what's going to happen next season. You have a team that you think is in place to win a cup. You think that you're the best team in the league possibly, and you go out there, and this is the trade that could potentially set you right over the edge to win that Stanley Cup. First-round pick, which will be late in the first round, that you won't see this player for years on end. It will take 2-3 years to get this guy in the NHL. Then a second-round pick in 2018, which, again, he may never even end up being anything. And if he does, it will take him a while to get there. In a minor leaguer, Grayson Downing. So pretty good trade, in my opinion, for the Wild. What do you think there, Fitty Trent?
No, I think you said it perfectly there, Mitch. I mean, when I was looking to make those trade videos that I've been making on the Bottom Line View, I was analyzing every single team and what they really need. And Minnesota has an absolutely great offensive core. The sad thing is, it's 12 offensemen. It's 12 forwards. That's it. They've tried to get Ryan Carter, but he's been very iffy with needing a hip surgery, I think, this entire season. And they keep on trying to sign him, but he keeps on getting injured. So Martin Hanzal and Ryan White are going to be absolutely great players. If not anything, just depth. I mean, Ryan White is definitely going to be depth. But Martin Hanzal, that's going to help out your middle six. You look over at Arizona, and this is what they need. They need more draft picks because they don't have any much of a team right now. You know, you got to roll the dice and see if any of these players turn out to be anything. And this upcoming draft is actually quite deep. So they could get someone pretty good here, even if it's the late first-round pick.
Good point, Trent. Yeah, I think, again, with Arizona, they're a team that's constantly looking for picks as well. So that's a good take from Trent. We have a couple guys in the chat, Tom Ward and AV Gaming 91. What's going on, guys? Let us know what you think of the trades. Definitely give us some feedback on the trades, and we can try and respond to you guys as quick as possible. But those were the two trades. Hanzal, it's interesting that both of these big-name players in these trades were both 30 years old. So that's interesting. I know that you're not looking to trade some of your younger players, and your older players aren't necessarily tradable. So, two of these guys that are middle-aged are now going on to teams that have an opportunity to win the cup. So if you're a Martin Hanzal, if you're a Ben Bishop, you're looking to make the most of this opportunity because you're looking to potentially win a Stanley Cup, right, Trent?
Absolutely. I mean, Ben Bishop's never won a Stanley Cup. We were talking a little bit earlier about how Ben Bishop, we were kind of surprised that he was 30 years old because he started so late in his NHL career. He was like 25, 26 when he started in the NHL.
Yeah, that's a deceiving 30 years old because he doesn't have much tread on his tires.
Exactly. And he was traded for nothing. He was traded for nothing from like the Senators. And Martin Hanzal, he's always been on like the Coyotes or a team like that. These guys have always been on the struggling teams or the teams that look like they have some promise, but turn out not to do very much. This is the first time that both these players actually have a chance of winning the Stanley Cup because both these teams are legitimately going to make the playoffs this year.
So we have a question from the chat. AV Gaming says, do you know anything about the 2019 conditional draft pick?
The 2019 fourth-round conditional draft pick, I don't know exactly. I think I heard a rumor that it's supposedly if Minnesota makes it to the third round, then the fourth comes into effect. But I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on that. Mitch, did you hear anything about it?
No, that's the best we got. Fitty Trent's the Bob McKenzie of the channel, so I count on the Bob McKenzie to know his stuff. He probably got it from the other Bob McKenzie's Twitter. But make sure, you could probably check out Twitter, check out, sites like TSN and stuff, and they'll have you updated on that if you're really interested to see what the conditional pick is. It might come like in like the next day or so. You might get more details on the trade. Sometimes right at the start when this trade happens, you don't get all the details and you don't get the motivations. What do you think? I know we talked about why it's a good trade and all that stuff, but from both perspectives, why do you think from a Wild perspective, why do you think from Coyotes perspective, why do you think from a Lightning and a Kings perspective, what was the motivation behind it if you're the GM, Trent? What do you think?
The Wild, I mean, we said it. You got to win right here, right now. Devin Dubnyk is the best goaltender. I'm going to say the best goaltender this season. Now, Carey Price, you can look at his career and say Carey Price is better, but Devin Dubnyk is the goaltender with the plan right now. If you want to win, you got to do it right now because Devin Dubnyk has the tendency of being great one season and then getting traded for conditional sevenths for many seasons after that. Arizona, I was a fool. I thought Arizona was going to be the second best team in the Pacific Division. Remember that there, Mitch? I said that they were going to be the second best team. Thank you very much. I was wrong. Exactly. I suck. I mean, we call me the Bob McKenzie because I'm good at trades, not good at season predictions. So the Arizona Coyotes had a terrible year this year. It's time to reflect and go, you know what? We'll get them next time. The LA Kings, as you said, Mitch, this is the best the LA Kings have looked ever. I mean, they don't have a goaltender before they got Ben Bishop because Jonathan Quick was injured, But
Yeah.
you look at everyone else. Jeff Carter's doing amazing. Drew Doughty's doing amazing as always. Everyone's playing absolutely great. The Lightning, terrible. I'm sorry. But the Lightning, this is really disappointing for them. We thought that they were going to be the top team this year there, Mitch. One of the top teams in the NHL.
We thought they would be in the top 3 in the East. I think everybody did, the way that they've been playing over the past couple of seasons. I thought they were right there with the Capitals and the Penguins in the East, and they just fallen off. I don't really know why.
I know. It's very confusing. I mean, Steven Stamkos has been injured, but it's the kind of thing where Stamkos has been injured before, but they've been able to get it done. This year, the Tampa Bay Lightning, I mean, it was a shock to everyone. Everyone was thinking that Bishop and Vasilevsky were going to be 1 and 2 all the way till the end of the playoffs. Guess what? They don't have time to wait till the end of the playoffs because they're not in a playoff team right now. That's why they had to ship out either Ben Bishop or Vasilevsky. And I think the majority of people wanted to see Vasilevsky stay with the Lightning. He has a better record. He's much more younger. And yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where the threat of the expansion draft was right over the Lightning of which goaltender are you going to pick. Now the threat's over the LA Kings. This is going to be interesting. Ben Bishop and Jonathan Quick, at one time or another, were quoted to be the top 10 goaltenders in the NHL today. Which one do you keep on to there, Mitch, with this expansion draft looming over?
That's tough. I think you have to keep Jonathan Quick. I mean, I know that he's just injured, and I want to see how he rebounds from that. But he's won 2 cups. He's been clutch. He's been consistent. I know that at times he can kind of be a little bit off, but that's with all goaltenders. I think you have to go with Quick. I think he just has the track record. Yeah,
I'd agree that you should go with Jonathan Quick. But then again, you look at Ben Bishop, and he's still 30. Now, most players take till they're like 26, 27 to really start hitting their prime. Goaltenders, I mean, that's usually around the 30, 31 mark when they start really hitting their prime. So technically, we could be just starting to see the best Ben Bishop that we've ever seen. I mean, we don't know what he's going to do in a new scenery like the LA Kings. He might have like a Matt Murray type season where he goes like 17-0 for like the rest of the regular season, gets the Kings into the playoffs, and just keeps on sweeping the teams. Then you have a real goaltender controversy of whether you go with Quick or Bishop. It's going to be very interesting this upcoming playoff run. See what happens.
Yeah, and Trent, actually Quick is 31, so it's not too much of a difference. But just before we leave, do you have a prediction for – I want this prediction, and then we're going to say goodbye. But who's the next guy that's going to be traded, or who's the next team that's going to do something?
I have to say that the St. Louis Blues will be the next team to make a big move. Kevin Shattenkirk is out of there. I'm sorry, Kevin Shattenkirk is one of the best scoring players for the Blues this year, but the GM has right out said it and said he's not on the team after the trade deadline. I don't care what we get for him. He's not on this team. I think they're so adamant about it that I wouldn't be surprised if Shattenkirk got traded later on today, later on tonight even.
Really? And where do you think he'll go, Trent?
That's a tough one there, Mitch. You look at the teams now, and surprisingly enough, it's kind of weird, but Tampa Bay Lightning, they've ditched a lot of their salary cap now. Ben Bishop had about $8 million of their $60 million salary cap. They're still looking for that right-handed defenseman of the future. Granted, yes, Cernak they have now, but Cernak's going to take another 2 to 3 years. Kevin Shattenkirk is for right here, right now. I'm not saying that might be where he's going to go, but I'm going to say that the Lightning are definitely going to be kicking the tires now.
There you heard it. Fitty Trent's next trade, Kevin Shattenkirk, is going to go to the Tampa Bay Lightning or somewhere. I don't know. But there we go. So this is our reaction to the Ben Bishop and Martin Hanzal trade for February the 26th, 2017. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick reaction and recap of the trades. Any more things you guys got, make sure you comment below just your reaction to the trade of the news. If you're a fan of one of the teams, what's your thoughts on the season? And make sure you subscribe to the channel for more NHL recaps, trade news, trade deadline. We have trade deadline stuff coming up this Wednesday, fully covered. If you want a fully covered NHL trade deadline, subscribe to The Bottom Line View and look out for our videos. Thanks, guys, for watching. It's Mitch and Trent of The Bottom Line View. Peace.